things that I've learned this about knowledge. When you're brimming with knowledge and experience, it's kind of like a cup that's overflowing. Where's
Mhm.
that water going? If you do nothing, it's going on the floor and it just dissipates. But as soon as you
Yeah.
take somebody else's cup and from your overflowing cup, you pour into somebody else's cup, you don't lose any knowledge. You you
Right.
still have an overflowing cup and you're always adding to it. So I just think it's a beautiful analogy of every time you share, you add value to somebody else's life and you add value to your life because you see their eyes light up, you see some excitement there. And anytime
Yeah.
you create success for somebody else, it's huge. It's about how do I serve others? Like we took it over subject to, and while we were fixing it up, it
Right.
was like a $55,000 rehab. I didn't have that money as a teacher, so I found another friend in our community. They brought the 55,000, I brought the property. We did a little joint venture, and at the end of it, they wanted to keep it as a rental, which I think was brilliant. I'm so glad they did. But they paid me what we would have made as a flip on it if we would have flipped it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Entrepreneurial Odyssey. My name is Rob Ratliff and I am your host. And today I am here with Brigham Blackham of Stay B&B, and he is going to talk to us about his entrepreneurial journey, what he does now, what he specializes in, and give you a few tips and tricks to help you with your business and tell your story. So welcome, Brigham. Glad to have you.
Rob, thank you so much for having me on. And it's so awesome to be able to be on here and share a little bit of my story, my background. I love adding value to people. I'm all about figuring out ways that we can add patterns of progress. And I love sharing great insights and stories. So thank you for the opportunity, my friend.
My pleasure. So we just started talking a little bit on Facebook. I don't even remember how we were introduced to each other. I don't know if you do, but
I don't know. It's been a couple months. We've just been going back and forth. We need to do a
right.
podcast together. Yeah, let's do it. And then it's just kind of today's the day. So
I
that's how
know
it
it's
goes.
amazing how, it's amazing how social media can be so social if you do it right.
Yeah. I
I
think
think,
social media is a great tool. It can be a huge distraction, but it can also be a great tool because we wouldn't have known each other if we didn't have social media. If we didn't have those introductions and see, hey, you're in a similar field as me. I want to help people. You want to help people. You're in the podcasting space. Yeah, I think it's phenomenal to go and connect with people like yourself.
yeah, and I think we happen to go through Facebook, but also, there's LinkedIn, there's Instagram. Of course, you have your TikToks, which is, kind of controversial in some spaces. Are we being
Yeah.
spied on? Are we not being spied on? But just the technology is crazy. And I know TikTok gets a bad rap for this, and maybe this is off subject, but it's kind
Mm.
of fun to talk about. But at the same time, my wife was talking to someone the other day about some subject, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but as soon as she jumps on Facebook, a couple hours later, she's starting to see ads for that stuff that she was
Yeah.
talking about. So I guarantee you it's not just TikTok that's paying attention to what's going on, but that's the power of social media.
Mhm.
When you look at it from like a marketing and business standpoint, it really can be effective and get your ads in front of the right people at the right time in the right place.
I think that's huge. Now, when I first started my business, I was coming from the space as a teacher. So I thought of
Mhm.
social media and that type of marketing as kind of an annoyance because my kids were always on their social media platforms and not paying attention to my Chinese classes or my theater classes. I was like, well,
Right.
now as an entrepreneur, I'm like, this is a phenomenal tool because attention is now the newest currency. And I think anytime you have people's eyeballs on what it is you do, you build that awareness. It's that old ADA principle. You create the awareness, and then you've got, hey, I have interest now. And then you build that desire, and then there's an action attached to it. And I think that's probably over 100-year-old idea, but it still is relevant today because if it's a great principle, it's a great principle. So when I first started my business, it was, hey, I want to figure out how to not just make an impact in my classroom, but to make a bigger impact outside in the world. So that's why I started my speaking career. In 2019, I actually did my very first short term rental. I know you said, hey, tell me a little bit about your story. When I first got started in real estate investing, it was very scary because I was living on that razor's edge. I don't know if you've ever been a teacher or you know some people that are on a teacher that are teachers, but you get sold this dream. You're gonna have so much time in the summer. you're going to have a ton of experience teaching, and then you're going to have 3 months to just kind of enjoy yourself. It's not the most realistic time frame to talk about, because I felt like I was always doing 2 or 3 jobs during the summer to make ends meet. And I was like,
Hmm.
shoot, I'm not in the right vehicle. And I actually looked at my steps throughout the entire year, or the 30 years that I would be in there, and I'd never gross $1 million over my entire career. Not net,
Hmm.
but gross $1 million. I was like, shoot, I'm in the wrong vehicle. I love what I'm
Hmm.
doing. I love the students, but I want to make a deeper impact, and I want to be able to really benefit financially from it. So real estate was the easiest thing for me to think about. And I don't know
Hmm.
if you ever heard this idea of real estate is an ideal investment. Have you heard this before?
Oh,
Little
I know. I
acronym.
used to do seminars around the country talking about real estate and
Oh my goodness, yeah.
investing, and it just, no matter how you look at it, real estate just continues to appreciate. There's
Yeah.
only so much in the world, and it's one of those investments that it's. I'm not going to say you're not going to lose money on it, but it's very difficult to end up under unless you just
Yeah.
really don't know what you're doing. But if you
Right.
know what you're doing, it's one of the safest vehicles that appreciates over time.
Right.
And not only does the asset itself appreciate, but you've got the rental ability. Now you're doing the stay B and B, so you're
Mhm.
taking it to that level, which is was again, you look at the internet and you look at the possibilities there, and you think this is again one of those businesses, one of the largest, what'd you call it, like hotel or
Yeah, there's
stay
short-term rentals. There, it's a
short-term rentals.
huge, like
Yeah,
honestly, a huge market. There's so many people that need short-term accommodations, and they
yeah.
don't necessarily want to stay in a hotel. They want to have a kitchen. They want to have a way that they can do their laundry. Because if they're not just one night in an area, they want to be able to enjoy themselves and not have to share, common spaces. It's a great vehicle to utilize and repurpose some real estate. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy that asset class.
Do you know the background on how like Airbnb got started? Do you know that
I know a
story?
little bit about it. So I've done a little bit of research. I forget how to say his last name, Chesky or something like that. The creator of Airbnb, uh,
Hmm.
he first did his idea of, hey, there's this convention in town. There's a ton of people. There's no hotel spaces. He put his room up on online, and he said, hey, I have 2 air mattresses. Who wants to stay? And he made them breakfast, and that's where the Airbnb came from. It was literally an air mattress and breakfast,
Right.
and he made a little bit of money, and it started supplementing his income. He's like, this is awesome. I
Yeah.
think I could create a business around this idea of being hospitable and creating a space that's shared for other people. And that's how that business started. Now, for me, I actually got started doing it a little bit different. I've never had anyone really stay in my own house other than family and really close friends. But that's a
Hmm.
great way to start for a lot of people. They'll say, hey, I have an extra bedroom. I'm an empty nester. I maybe have a casita or some other idle asset that's like a guest house in the back of their property. Like, you know what? We only use that once or twice a year. Why not let guests come and use it? They pay for the cleanings, right? You make a little bit of supplemental income, and that helps keep up on the maintenance, and you know what's going on in the property. So
Hmm.
it's a win-win-win scenario all across the board. Now, there is one caveat to this. If you don't run it well,
Hmm.
man, it becomes a lot of work, because
Right.
you're always talking with people. And if you're not a people person, this is probably not the best business for you, because it's a lot of interpersonal communication. And in the
Hmm.
beginning, my first 5 properties I had, I was pretty much on call 24/7. Anytime there was something broken or some little thing, hey, I need this. Do you have extra toilet paper? Do you have extra towels? Do you have the other things? You are the front desk. So it's
Right.
a high touch business, even though it's a simple business. Does that make sense?
Right. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the thing that I love about it is that even if you're just even if you're not making a lot of an income as far as profitability
Mhm.
on a monthly or annual basis, you're still, if you do it right, at least covering the mortgage
Oh
while
yeah.
that property appreciates in value.
Right. So I brought up this idea that real estate is an ideal investment. It's an acronym. It's income generating. A lot of other asset classes, you buy like gold, it doesn't churn off income. but real
Hmm.
estate, you can. You build rents. Then you've got deductions, which is a huge benefit. You've got tax deductions that you just don't have in all other asset classes. Every once in a while, you'll have some tax benefits from those. You've got appreciation, like what you brought up, and that
Hmm.
typically trends a little over 3% every single year over the last 100 years. It can be more,
Hmm.
but that's an awesome actual benefit, even though it's not a realized gain until you sell it. And then you've got what do I say? Equity. Your equity is that so EA equity and then appreciation. So the equity it builds as you pay off that principal. So you're
Hmm.
basically forcing a savings account and then it's leveraged. So it's not just hey I put down $10,000 into this property. It's I put down the $10,000, but I get the value of 100 or 200, $300,000, whatever your actual purchase was, and you're getting the benefit off the 300,000 rather than just the 10,000. So it's a very leverageable asset class, and I love that because it's not something that uh, only the rich and wealthy can benefit on. Literally, mom and
Yeah.
pop type of people, they can say, "Hey, I have a friend that's moving. They want to sell their house. Talk with them before you go talk to a realtor. Find some terms that are good for them, and they could even become the bank. They get their cash flow and you get the property. And a lot of times buying on terms or selling on terms, it's an extremely beneficial thing for both parties. So I love real estate. It's something I talk about on my podcast all the time, and I have great
Hmm.
people. I still feel like I'm a baby investor. Like I haven't been doing it long enough to really have my eyes crazy open, but I love talking to people that have been there, done that, done hundreds of transactions, and just making a difference because it's one of the three things that everybody needs: food, shelter, and water. Everybody needs shelter, and even if it's temporary shelter, like a short-term rental,
Hmm.
you don't want to sleep on the ground unless you're camping. And I mean that's a type of short-term rental is glamping and camping, but I prefer to
Yeah.
have a shower personally and to have some air
Yeah.
conditioning.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Yeah. Well, and depending on where you live, and I know that my sister-in-law and her husband, they have some Airbnbs and they even manage them from, a different state.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have to be right there next to the property. If you have people to look after the property, clean the property,
Mhm.
take those towels over, things like that. It can be an amazing opportunity that you can run from pretty much anywhere if you have the system in place to do it.
Yeah, I'm living in Grand Junction, but all my properties are in Utah. So
Right.
it's one of those that you have to make sure you know the systems and you have to have connections, you have to have some boots on the ground. Great cleaners kind of make or break your business, so treat them right. And then
Hmm.
make sure you have a good idea of how do I systemize my automated messages, or once you get to a point that you can actually say, you know what, I'm going to pass off some of the responsibility of guest communications, find a virtual assistant or pay for a service of
Hmm.
a large property management company to take care of it. And you
Hmm.
can start to have more hands-off opportunities.
So how did you okay, so you have the Airbnb, you went from teacher educator Airbnb. Next step, what was the next step in your business journey then?
My business journey was my very first year, just to put it in context, so some dollars and cents. That property, the most I'd ever made was like $500 a month gross. And then after I ran and managed my short-term rental business, it was netting almost 1,000 a month. It's almost doubled the income by just changing the usage. And
Hmm.
I basically kept that first year and a half of revenue and bought another one. And then I bought another one. And I bought another one. And I now have nine. And I do a slightly different strategy than most because it's a cash flowing strategy. For five of my units, not the first four, but the five of my units, I have an arbitrage where it's actually rental. So I'll go and find a rental uh, apartment complex that is open to doing corporate leases. I'll lease from them and say, okay, now I need to cover $2,300 a month before I make any money. So it's like, got to make sure you're renting it and it's really high quality stuff. You have to furnish it. And then after that, you're just paying rent. And just like you would at like a strip mall, you
Hmm.
have your basic expenses and then everything on top of that's your margin. So some months are
Right.
great, some months are just okay, but that's leveraging your risk in a different way than purchasing the property. I think it's always
Right.
better to purchase a property when you can, but for brand new
Sure.
people, that's
Yeah.
another way to get into this game and learn how to build your systems. is by using this arbitrage model. So I've got 5 of those that are arbitrage, which is you rent and then you
Hmm.
re-rent it out. But you do need to make sure you have
Right.
good contracts. You need to make sure that you're very upfront with your property managers and the
Yep.
people you're leasing from, because uh, you're not a typical tenant. You don't really stay in the property ever. You are always having people in and out and in and out, and you have to make
Yeah.
sure that it's cleaned, it's fully professionally maintained, and if there's any issues, you have to fix it in between like 11 and 4 before your next person checks in. So it's a little
Yeah.
tighter as far as your communication, and the maintenance schedule is a much more stringent than it is on a long-term rental. You might have a week to go fix a washer and dryer, whereas in a
Mm.
short-term rental situation, you have like a 5-hour window. So
Right.
there's a little bit more coordination, but it's a lot more lucrative typically than a long-term rental, even though
Right.
it's a little more hands-on.
So as you're educating other people about this, what do you tell them as far as here's the things that really held me back when I started and how do you
Mm.
overcome those?
Okay, the things that really held me back was saying I had to do everything myself. That solopreneur mentality. I literally could not run my business if I had to do it by myself. It's hard to be in 9 places at once. But when you are willing to say this is your role, you clean these 3 apartments. Anytime there's a cleaning, we make sure you know about it. You've got that role delegated, and then these different roles. And as I was able to take some of those responsibilities and create standard operating procedures, and take myself and the things that I know and put it actually on paper and say, this is the job description. Now, are you able to do this, cleaner? Yes. Okay. Can you do this? Yes. This. Do you have these maintenance skills? No. Okay. So I need to make that a totally different role. How about these maintenance skills? Yes, I can swap out a filter. Okay, perfect. That can still be part of your role. And you start to delineate and you go through. I've got multiple systems that allow me to still be accountable to what is happening, but I don't have to be the one that's doing it. I just, hey, did this get done? This get done? This get done? And they just do their checklist basically. So it takes a lot of the
Right.
stress off of me because I don't have to remember all these things. I don't have to do it myself. So that would be
Right.
my suggestion is in whatever business you are in. You could be selling, uh, I don't know, erasers. I don't care, whatever it is that you're selling, a product or a service. You could do window washing. If you have your standard operating procedures written down, say if this happens, then this happens, getting those roles delineated as best you can. And I'm not perfect at this, but I've
Hmm.
taken everything that I know how to run in my business and written it down on paper. And I say
Right.
that it wasn't physically written. I actually typed it out. So it's easier to
Right. Right.
defend.
Right. Yeah.
But that idea that you get every single thing that needs to happen in the business, you put it in there, and then when a process breaks, you go back and you alter it, you fix it, you make those little adjustments, and you keep that communication channel open. That's probably the thing that held me back the longest. And I
Mm.
really owe my friend Eric Counts a ton of credit here because he was the one that helped me figure this out. He teaches a great class in it's called our profits course, but it's called
Hmm.
business automation. And
Hmm.
he gave me this awesome insight. And the way that he taught it was so simple. You ready for this? This is how simple it was that helped me like
Sure.
absolutely unlock what my potential was. He said, I want you to write every step that you need to make toast to somebody
Mm.
that has never made toast and doesn't even know
Right.
what bread is. You're like, oh,
Wow.
okay, how
Yeah.
do I do that? And that
Yeah.
thought process of writing it on a sticky note and then saying, okay, you have to get bread and you have to maybe even go to the store, you acquire the bread. Okay, perfect. And like, what else? Oh, I need to make sure they know how to untie the the bag. Okay,
Right.
perfect.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you start doing that, and then you give those instructions to somebody else, and they do their very best to break the system. They're like, "Oh, you didn't
Right.
say this," and you're like, "Open the bag," but you didn't say how to open it. They'll like rip open the bag. You're like, "Oh, great, okay." So anytime you have like a guest review, like on Airbnb, that's them basically giving you feedback saying, "Yeah, the bag was broken," or "You forgot to mention
Hmm.
this thing," and you can make those
Mm.
micro adjustments. And the faster
Right.
you're making those micro adjustments to your system, the more fluid it will be because it's never going to be perfect, but it is
Right.
going to be able to get a little bit better every single time. So that was probably the most helpful thing for me was systemizing my standard operating procedures.
Mm. So you all operate a coaching program that helps people learn how to do this?
Yeah, I have a great coaching program. It is I'm actually an affiliate marketer for a group called Renatus. It's a Utah-based company. We've won Best of State 12 years.
Hmm.
Phenomenal. Actually, Bob Snyder, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Bob Snyder won in 2013 the Entrepreneur of the Year for Utah, which is a huge honor because think
Sure.
about how many entrepreneurs are in Utah.
Yep.
Phenomenal. Anyway, that kind of gives you a little bit of the background of that, but yeah, I would love to talk more about that, but it's probably easy an hour to let you know what it is. Basically, we create real estate investors from people that have never
Mhm.
done it to people that have been doing it for decades, help you be a more professional real estate investor, know how to run your numbers, find off-market deals and create opportunity, not just find opportunity from other people. You create it by the way you negotiate. You create it by how you add value into the world, how you attract people to you. And I owe a whole lot of my business and my career to that organization because of the specialized knowledge that they taught and can continue to teach because it's a lifelong process. It's not something that you only go to school for 4 years. Like, well, I actually bought this program 5 years ago, and I got my first rental property within a year, and then I've been doing it consistently using the program. And I
Right.
think anytime you've got specialized knowledge, the difference between someone that's at the top of their game and someone that's just average and stays average is how curious are they to continue to grow in their specialized knowledge, and how curious are
Right.
they to build that skill set, because you can upskill any person, even the very top people in sports and business. They're reading new books. They have mentors. They have coaches. They go to classes. They go to professional development. There's an expression in Mandarin, "不进则退." If you're not progressing, you're digressing. And I feel like that is so true,
Mhm.
especially in business, because business moves fast. People are trying to get you out of business so they can take that market share. And as you progress, and you start to collaborate with other people. I love collaborative capitalism. That's kind of what we're doing right now. You think about it. As I
Right.
connect with you and you connect with me, we build likability, trustability. And because you know, like, and trust me, then we can start to find ways that we can help each other out.
Mhm.
I hope that answered your question, but yes, is the
Yes. We
yes,
have a coaching
have a
program. It
coaching
is
program.
available. I be able to share the link
Yeah,
in the
I'll share the
description
link. So we
here.
actually have a week test drive that you can go. You don't have to buy the whole program. All you need to do is go through that 1 week and say, "Man, I like this," or "Yeah, this isn't for me," and that's okay. It's $50
Mhm.
and it's called our test drive. So if you
Hmm.
go through that and you actually take the 15 minutes a day to experience these, we go through taxes and legal, so that you can figure out, hey, am I structured correctly? We go
Mhm.
through how to acquire off-market properties. There's a small section on that. There's a section on how to improve your credit with one or two little tips that can actually improve your credit score so you can be a little bit easier to fund. So you'll
Mhm.
go through that 1 week, and all you need to decide is this for me or not? Do I like this or not? It's literally that simple.
Right.
That's why we did the test
Right.
drive. It's $50. And if you like it, great. If you don't, you're like, I still learned something. So it's a
Yeah.
win-win there. And I'll definitely share that link with you. No problem.
All right. Perfect. So tell me a little bit about the emotional highs that you get from this kind of business and being an entrepreneur and having that income. Because I think, there's a
Yeah.
lot of people out here who are listening right now who may be struggling,
Yeah.
post COVID. We've got food is probably quadrupled in the last,
Oh,
3 or 4
goodness. Yeah.
years and financially, but there is hope out there. There are things that you can do. Talk about what are the benefits of getting into this program and learning how to do this that would drive someone to say, I should give this a shot.
I love it. I think the biggest benefit is, lots of people come into any community with five things in mind. They either want a better lifestyle, they want to increase their connections, their community, they want a system that's reliable that they can lean on and learn from. They want to feel that admiration or validation that what they're doing is worthwhile, or they want proof that whatever it is works. For me, the benefit of doing a program like this, being able to be an entrepreneur, is I am no longer uh, pushing my responsibility on somebody else. I'm not saying, hey, I
Right.
need my employer to make me money. I deserve this raise. The way that you do it is, how do I serve? How do I add value? How do I connect with more people and serve more people? And as I love the way Jim Rohn talks about this, he said, profits are better than wages. If you can
Yep.
create profit, you benefited somebody and they paid you for the experience. He's like, I
Right.
don't need the money, but I take the money. You
Yeah. Right.
love the people and you use the money. You don't do it the other way around. You don't use the people and love the money. And I think
Right.
being an entrepreneur, there's times where you're like, man, I just got a booking. I was like last no, 2 weeks ago, I got a booking that was a $5,000 booking for a month. And I was like, that's so easy because now I don't have to clean it for a whole month. And it was a great booking. And now I just
Mhm.
need to make sure that all the systems are working and there's no maintenance issues. But that's the easiest thing for me as far as a short-term rental host. I love those because there's like a little bit of emotional high. You're like, yes, I got someone that really
Mhm.
loves this place and they're going to enjoy it. And then
Right.
sometimes, like during COVID, I had someone, her name was Randy. I'm not going to say the last name because I don't remember it, but she never stayed there. It was a $3,400 booking or something like that. It was almost a full month. And during COVID, every single one of my bookings got canceled because of that. I'm like, hey,
Mm.
you can just cancel without any repercussion. And she'd already committed to come, but I couldn't rebook it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So you feel like those daggers, like, oh, it's $3,000 loss. And sometimes
Mhm.
there's way larger things that happen, but as you are on this entrepreneurial roller coaster, the benefits far outweigh the stresses. I'm much more energetic and excited about my future because it's dependent upon me and how I create leadership opportunities for other people and for my team and how we're doing personal development. It's a growth opportunity that there is one thing for entrepreneurs. You can definitely grow inside an organization, but when
Mhm.
you are solving valuable problems and people are paying you for the process and they enjoy it, suddenly you feel there's almost an external validation of saying, yes, what I'm doing is worthwhile. And
Mhm.
as I've been getting into entrepreneurship even more, I've been focusing on what are the biggest things that I can do to help people have breakthroughs without having breakdowns.
Right.
And I love that idea because sometimes if you share something that allows someone to avoid a breakdown and they can have that breakthrough, you save them time, energy, money, uh, hurt relationships. You can
Mm.
prove that this is saving you maybe not even like a little bit of time, but like hours of time. Here's an example. Can I give you a concrete example?
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
So one of my favorite classes is our real estate red flags class. And there's this small little section. He says, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you guys a lesson that will save you 20 grand at least sometime during your real estate investment career. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. Ears are perked up. Like, okay, tell me. He's like, when you are buying a rehab property and you notice there's a really big tree, I mean, like one that's probably 20 plus years old in the front of the house. What is that an indication of? What do you absolutely need to make sure that you do before you purchase that house in your due diligence? I was thinking, I was like, make sure it's not going to fall on the house. He's like, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, yeah, that could cause some damage. Uh, but he said, check where the main water line is. If the main water line has roots in it, which is extremely common with older trees, that
Yep.
can be 10, 20, or $30,000. That one little
Yeah.
thing, you need to scope the pipes. He's like, that might cost you $200 to $400 depending on who you do it, who does it. But if there's an issue there, you just got a 10 or $20,000 discount on the house, just like that.
Wow.
That's the value of specialized knowledge when you have insight based on experience. Because when you share wisdom, there is a difference than just saying, hey, here's a concept, here's an idea. This is literally going to save you some money. I've got one other one that's very concrete, I think is very helpful, specifically for real estate investors. Other people, you can kind of use this in a similar way. When you're negotiating, you need to figure out what are their biggest pain points. If you find out that, for instance, this property has had meth smoked in it, but you haven't swabbed yet, you can't prove it until you have a swab. You go and get that little swab and you go over and you get
Hmm.
the test back. As soon as that test comes back positive, now the realtor on the other side has to disclose it. You
Mm.
you have a kind of an in to say, hey, well, I already have this under contract. How about we figure out what that will cost to remediate this? And maybe you call three or four different people and you find out it's a $10,000 remediation. Like, okay, You just got a $10,000 discount on that house for paying for a 50 cent or a $50 swab.
Right.
That type of knowledge, that's why I connect with Renatus. That's why I connect with practitioner instructors. And that's why I think it's so valuable to have a great business coach, to have mentors,
Mhm.
and to continually find that special K is what I call it. You know, the cereal special K?
Yeah,
Specialized
yeah,
knowledge. There you go.
yeah. There you go. Which, I happen to love Special K, and especially the one that has like the little freeze-dried
Yeah,
strawberries,
they're
one of
so
my
good.
faves.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that one too.
No, that specialized knowledge is so important. And it's funny you touched on a few things that, and I wrote a book, and I've talked to you a little bit
Yeah.
about this called Driven to Succeed. And in that book, I talk about the importance of progressing. And I love what you said and, the Chinese language about if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward kind of thing.
Yeah,
And,
Bujinza twice. Not
it,
progressing, you're digressing. It's so true.
you're right. It's so cool. So I might steal that and put it in my book, but
Absolutely. I give it to
I'll
you.
look
Not
that up.
stolen. I'm gonna give it to you. There you go.
Uh, Perfect. Yeah, because I'm going to look that up. But what an awesome concept. And one of the first letter in the driven formula is determination,
Mm,
the act of deciding.
yeah.
When was it that you pivoted from employee to entrepreneur? What was that moment
Oh
like? You
man.
talked about it a little bit. Tell me about that down to the minute decision when you went, you know what? I'm not an employee. I'm an entrepreneur.
I've
How did that shift
I've
happen?
had a few different shifts, but I'm gonna share this story. My very first fix and flip that I ever did. I had a friend that was struggling as a landlord. He'd moved out. He had honestly pretty bad roommates. They had a dog that they weren't supposed to. The dog had ruined the backyard. Poop was everywhere. We had like 6 or 7 bags of poop when we bought this place. We had to get out of the backyard. It was nuts. They had been
Gross.
smoking weed in the garage and throughout the house, so it had like a really thick stench. And they had
Mm,
just had that dog tear up the floor and the doors and the door frames. So I was like, okay, this is a very motivated seller, but he's like, I know you already. I trust you. We were able to negotiate a great deal where he no longer had to pay the mortgage. We took it over subject to. And while we were fixing it up, it was
good.
like a $55,000 rehab. I didn't have that money as a teacher, so I found another friend in our community. They brought the 55,000. I brought the property. We did a little joint venture. And at the end of it, they wanted to keep it as a rental, which I think was brilliant. I'm so glad they did. But they paid me what we would have made as a flip on it if we would have flipped it. We had about a
Right.
$40,000 margin on it, and they paid me $22,500. And results aren't typical, but I made
Hmm. Sure.
$22,500 with having zero money in it. And I was like,
Right.
"Oh shoot, this is way easier than teaching by a lot." Because
Yep.
I wasn't the one that fixed the property. I walked through the property once before we bought it and then once before we sold it. So I physically went to St. George twice. So probably the cost of gas and food is how much I had in the property. So maybe $1,000.
Right.
But the
Right.
takeaway from that was I can create my own economy based on adding value, changing usage of a property. And
Yep.
as soon as I had that real tangible proof that I could do it and that I had done it, I I was like, I need to figure out how to do this more. I need to figure out how I can make this not just a once in a lifetime situation, but how I can consistently do this. And it made me say, you know what? Instead of being a generalist in real estate, I want to be a specialist in short-term rentals.
Mhm.
And
Right.
I I just made that decision that I want to be the very best that I can in that niche. And I've been building
Right.
content towards it. And now, as I'm doing my speaking career, that's the engine that is allowing me to do what I love, to be on stage, to connect with other people, and to add patterns of progress and stories because it's so important to not just keep that knowledge to yourself. Because it's one of the
Yeah.
things that I've learned this about knowledge. When you're brimming with knowledge and experience, it's kind of like a cup that's overflowing. Where's
Mhm.
that water going? If you do nothing, it's going on the floor and it just dissipates. But as soon as you
Yeah.
take somebody else's cup and from your overflowing cup, you pour into somebody else's cup, you don't lose any knowledge. You you
Right.
still have an overflowing cup and you're always adding to it. So I just think it's a beautiful analogy of every time you share, you add value to somebody else's life, and you add value to your life because you see their eyes light up, you see some excitement there. And anytime
Yeah.
you create success for somebody else, it's huge. It makes you feel good, makes them feel
Right.
good. So hope that helped.
Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. So we're probably getting close to the end of this podcast. The time's gone so fast. It's
So fast.
amazing how quickly it goes. But tell us a little bit, just kind of in summary, what are some of the things that you find most important for entrepreneurs to keep in mind, be successful, overcome their fears or bad days?
Mm.
What keeps you motivated? What can help others stay motivated?
I hope it's okay that I go religious for a second. For me,
Sure.
the reason that I do this is not just to make money. It's how do I become my very best self? I believe I was put on this earth, just like all of us, to be tested so I can return to live with Heavenly Father again. And there are so many reasons to stay on track. One of my favorite exercises, I learned this from my friend Cosimo Intermite. He said, do a cost benefit analysis of your motivations. If you did
Mhm.
this and you were successful, who in your life would absolutely love to see you succeed? How would that feel? How would that experience be? And you actually go there in your mind and you write it out. And as you're motivating yourself, going through those things, you're focusing on what's the positive. You also say, now what's the cost if I don't? Who's going to be
Right.
disappointed if I don't? Who's going to be brokenhearted that you're in financial ruin? Who do you impact if you don't live up to your best self? And that gets very sobering. But you have that
Yeah.
type of a tool. Literally, any of you can do that. You fold a piece of paper in half and start writing and brainstorm. What happens if I keep on this path, if I do my very best and I become my best self and I live that life by design that I want? And what happens if I don't? What happens if I don't take
Right.
action, that I don't get a coach, I don't get a mentor that's been there, done that, that will encourage me, and I just stay on that same path? There's an
Yeah.
expression in Chinese, 失之毫厘，差之千里. The difference of a hair becomes 1,000 miles. And if you don't have those micro course corrections, those little adjustments that often you
Yeah.
need that third person looking over to say, oh, let's make a slight course correction here. Let's get back on track. Let's remember where we're going. Those mentors, those coaches, those teachers in your path. They can be anybody that you're connected with, but find those that you know, like, and trust, and that have been there and done what you want to do. For me, it all comes down to, am I on that path to perfection? I'm never
Hmm.
going to arrive at perfection unless you think of it as I've completed the step, like teleos, which is the Greek version of the word perfection. But am I
Hmm.
getting a little bit closer every single day? Am I making that progression? Am I doing that 1% that's going to allow me to close the gap? For me, being an entrepreneur is selfless service consistently and solving the biggest
Hmm.
problems that I can consistently and making sure that it's
Hmm.
not about me. It's about how do I serve others? Like, I hope that that encouragement is huge. One of the things that I wanted to share as well before I sign off was my friend Sharon Lecter. She's heard so many different people say, "Hey, you know what? You need to find your why. Just find your why." And she said one little word that absolutely blew my mind. It was so simple. She said, "Why not?
Right.
Why not? Why not be successful? Why not be your best self? Why not go and change the world? Why not figure out how you can be the very best version of you?" I love this idea of humility. I'm the very best in what I do, and so are you.
Hmm.
There is
Hmm.
room for all of us to excel, to be the very best versions of ourselves, and there's no reason that you can't do it. And I actually have one other story, if that's all right, if I share this with you. Is that okay?
Sure. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I was
Absolutely.
listening to a class this morning, and there was the story of Bertha Benz. You know Mercedes Benz, if you the
Hmm.
origin
Yep.
of the motor coach, right? Where we all drive a car, we kind of forget that that used to not be a thing. But
Right.
the person that had the patent on the motor coach, uh, his wife had watched him toil and struggle to figure out how to make this work, and she decided
Hmm.
to use it, to actually take his car and go to grandma's house. So she got in the car and she started driving, and she had to go and make little pit stops at apothecaries because didn't have gas stations back then and figure out, hey, how do I make sure that this keeps going? And she had brake issues and she had to go to a cobbler and go and figure out, all right, now how do I get these brakes to work? So she had to get the brake pads specifically made, but she eventually made it to grandma's house. She sends a telegram back to Mr. Benz. She's like, we made it. And honey, your motor
Mhm.
coach works. And I was like, wow, that is such an inspiring story, because whenever we have issues, not if, but when we have issues as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
we can either say, you know what, I'm broken down. I'm going to call AAA and they're going to come get me. They're not going to come get you. You're fully
Right.
responsible for everything as an entrepreneur. And if you are willing to
Yeah.
accept that responsibility and say, how do I fix this? Who already knows how to fix this? Or who's someone that would be equipped to help me? Like, she didn't have uh, this idea of, I'm not going to make it. She said, how do I get to grandma's house? It's not
Yep.
if I get there. No, she's got that vision, because good leaders have vision, great leaders give vision. And I think as an entrepreneur, giving vision is something that is a gift. And I hope that we have been able to give some vision to you and your audience and added
Mhm.
some valuable insights today. And just like Bertha Benz, stay persistent. Keep that vision in mind. Say, I'm getting to grandma's house. Whatever your goal is, whatever your mentality is, to say, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to be. You have to be before you do, and you have to do before you have. And I love this, that if you take take the do portion out of that, it's your behavior. What are your behaviors that you're
Mhm.
taking every single day? What are your your standards? What are those things that you're not willing to compromise on to live the very best version of your life? With that,
Yeah.
I hope that was valuable, added some insight to you, Rob, and to your audience. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I really, I love connecting with awesome people. And Rob is definitely an awesome person. I'm excited to have you on my podcast too. It's going to be
Yep. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. And in that book that I'm talking about, The Driven to Succeed, V does stand for vision. It's just one of
so
those things where if you're going to be successful, you have to have that vision. The other thing I loved about that story was it wasn't a matter of, well, once I figure everything out, I'll go on this journey.
yeah.
She went on this journey and figured things out while she went. And for entrepreneurs who are sitting there saying, or for people who are wanting to become an entrepreneur and want to own their business, who are sitting there going, one day, once I figured it all out, then I will start this journey and be an entrepreneur. That's not how it works. I mean, you have to decide, I want to go and I want to do this business, and it may start super small. You have one person or one client, but serve that client the best you can and learn from that, learn from the mistakes, go through the system,
Yeah.
the things that you're talking about, write down what worked, what didn't work. So now next time you run into a problem, you know how to handle it. But you've got to start that journey. You can't wait for everything to be perfect in your life. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, and I think it's French for like risk taker,
Mhm.
you've got to be
That makes
willing to
sense.
take
Yeah.
that risk, right? To be an entrepreneur and get out there and make it happen. But, find yourself a good coach, find yourself a mentor, find someone who knows that side of the business. And I think you've given a lot of great information for both just the entrepreneurs and real estate investors. And I'm sure people who are listening would be interested, I would hope, to at least go try that $50 test drive and just see what kinds of things you have to offer, because it can make all the difference in the world. But you've got to start that journey. You have to
Absolutely.
make a decision to make that move. And if not, you're going to end up exactly where you are now. It's until you make a decision and change something, it's going to stay the same.
So true. People get stuck in their ruts sometimes, and the difference between a rut and a groove is, are you going to the location you actually want? If you're in a groove, you're
Right.
going to where you want to go. You've got those
Yep.
that forward momentum, that positive movement. But if you're in a rut, you're just kind of going in circles and maybe not even going on the path that you want. So actually step back and
Yep.
ask yourself, am I going where I want to go? Am I doing what I want to do? And if you are,
Yeah.
fantastic. If not, be introspective and ask yourself, am I
Yeah.
willing to do the work? You have to identify the work and then you have to do the work. So with
Yep.
that, thanks so much, Rob. I
Well,
appreciate it. And I'm so excited to have
well,
you on the Leveling Up podcast, man. It's going to be
yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully I have a lot to share there with your audience
Oh
and
yeah.
same kinds of things, just helping people to better their businesses, grow their businesses, get more clients. And so we'll talk about those things on your podcast. And I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being on here and joining us. And I'll try to get this edited and out within the next week or so,
Excellent.
and I'll let you know how that goes. But thank you so much for your time. Again, Brigham
You're welcome.
Blackham from Stay B&B. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Appreciate you. Take care. God bless,
All
man.
right. Yeah, you too.